Today we're going to go down to the Willamette River and check on some of the ferry boats that have been here for a lot of years, and this used to be the basic way that most of the old pioneers crossed the Willamette River before bridges were constructed. The Canby ferry first came into service in 1856, and it up until recently was the oldest operating ferry system in the United States, as it's made 1 million trips back and forth across the Willamette River to carry everything from horses, teams of horses and wagons, up to the modern vehicle. Before we go down to the ferry crossing the Willamette River, we're going to stop at the Molalla River State Park. It's a rather new state park, and it's kind of fun to stop there. It's near where the Molalla River runs into the Willamette. Being rather close to Canby and not that far from Portland and Oregon City, there's many city dwellers that come out here just to relax a little bit and exercise their dogs. And in better weather, a lot of people come here and play baseball and have family picnics, but the weather's not that good now, being the first couple weeks in January. We just circle in the Molalla River State Park and then back out onto the highway and travel just a very short distance till we come to the Canby Ferry. We're in some of the best agriculture area in the entire state of Oregon. This is down next to the Willamette River, and they call this land the Willamette River Silt. It hosts a variety of different crops. There are a lot of filberts grown here, some grapes, and lots of hops, and a lot of row crops, and lots of grass seed. There are a lot of really big farm buildings built here, and a lot of very expensive farmland here in the Willamette Valley, right on the banks of the mighty Willamette River. It's real near the town of Champoeg, which was established in 1846 on the banks of the Willamette River, and at Champoeg, that's where the first government west of the Mississippi River was started. As we drive toward the Willamette River, the road just suddenly ends with a gate ahead of us, and then we can look across the river and see the Canby Ferry setting on the bank on the other side. So why not cross on the ferry like the old pioneers did? That sounds like a really super good thing to do. It's going to cost us $5 for this ride across the Willamette River, but I would say it's worth every penny of it to go on this historical ferry ride. Within a few minutes, the ferry shows up, and the ferry operator gets out of his cabin, comes out, and guides us onto the ferry, and we're on and going for a really nice ride on the storm-swollen Willamette River. The river is very high now, but due to the spot where it is, where they have a lot of elevation on both sides of it, they can continue to operate the Canby Ferry there. It used to be that all the ferry operator had to do was turn the bow of the ferry into the current, and the current would carry it across on cables. But now they have powerful electric engines that carry it across the river in probably a whole lot less time. This ferry has been here for a whole long time, and it's seen a lot of history pass across it. They grow a lot of fruit and vegetables on the other side of the river, and some of that crosses the Canby ferry as well. It would have been very interesting to see the fancy ladies as they crossed the ferry with their team of horses and buggy on, all dressed up fine on their way to church. The ferry is here. Now we're just waiting for the light to turn.
Headlights off when approaching. That's great.
There we go. Take it real easy.
Okay, it's the MJ Lee. Okay. He wants me to put on the right side.
Want to while we cross.
Great,
okay, thank you.
You too.
The operator said we can get out of our cars and look as we cross the river. So I'm going to do that and look the ferry operating system over. It's a very interesting old ferry. Throughout the years, this ferry has had numerous remodel jobs done on it, which include a lot of metal and a concrete deck to drive on. The ferry operator even has an enclosed place to stand while he crosses the river and runs the controls. There they are. There are two large electric motors that carry this big ferry across the river, and then it runs on cables. As I peek in the window, I see him with a control in each hand, and they're like throttles, and he's moving them up and down to put the ferry very gently up against the bank. You don't want to hit with a thud. I want to see more about how this ferry operates, so I walk out in front of where the operator is, where one of the two big electric motors and mechanism are, and I see the cable being carried on some pulleys to hold the ferry from going up or down river. That's a real big cable that's steering the ferry across the Willamette River, as I see a really heavy-duty pulley that the cable is feeding through. The Willamette River itself looks like a cup of cream coffee. It's river sealed in it, but that's the Willamette River has been transformed from a very polluted river to a reasonably clean one now. Marge has taken her keys out of the switch and lost them. I don't know why she did that, but she did. Somebody wanted to come. Fortunate that we had another set of keys along, so we didn't get stuck on the ferry. And then when we got out away from the ferry, we finally stopped and we hunted till we finally found her keys. She dropped them down between the seats. That was a pretty frustrating and hectic time while we searched everywhere in that car. Front seats and back seats, and we looked every place we could find in the car, and finally we looked between the seats, and here the keys were, just big as could be, laying there. But I'm glad that we had that other set of keys, or people would have had to wait a considerable time while we hunted for the keys. That's a regular occurrence for us, Marge losing her keys, so we've learned to keep an extra set of keys handy in case that happened, and boy, did it pay off good today. So we're heading out through more of the very fertile Willamette Valley farmland where they grow a variety of crops, and as we get near Wilsonville, we see that it's switched from bigger farms to little hobby farms where they have a horse or a goat or something like that and grow a few smaller crops here. But the bigger farmland is out a little farther from the population centers. Here's the little receipt they gave us when we crossed the ferry. I guess I should put that up, so in another 100 years that'll be pretty valuable. Now we're heading to another ferry. It's the Wheatland Ferry, and it's several miles upstream from the Canby Ferry, and there are 3 of these ferries that cross the Willamette River, and so I'm more familiar with the Canby and the Wheatland Ferry. We passed through some more of this wonderful Willamette Valley crops. There are lots of hazelnuts, or filberts as they're called, and then a row of Willamette Valley white oak and a few fir trees, and then we see some more crops growing as we head for Wheatland Ferry. It would be nice to have crossed 2 ferries in one day. And then a lot of grass seed out here. This is grass seed farmers with a row of trees in the background, and then more of the hazelnuts and filberts, and then in a little bit we'll come to some grape vineyards, and then after them we come in to the hop fields. They grow lots of hops in the Willamette Valley, and we get down near Wheatland Ferry and we see this sign. It says Wheatland Ferry's closed, but the road isn't closed going down there, so we're going to go down there and take a look and see. Since Marge was raised here and spent all of her younger years here, she's quite familiar with these places. We get to Wheatland Ferry and we see what the problem is. The river's too high for it to operate, since it doesn't have good high banks on both sides like the Canby Ferry, and the Wheatland Ferry is tied up on the other side of the roaring Willamette River. And there it is. And this again is quite an old ferry, and it's been replaced several times, as the Canby Ferry has. As times change, they wear out, and there are different other materials to build a ferry with coming along. So I guess we won't be able to cross the Willamette on the Wheatland Ferry till the river drops. Since Marge was raised here, and she picked the kids from her family picked crops like beans and strawberries, and they helped plant cauliflower and broccoli, and did like farm work. When she was big enough to walk, she was out doing this, and they crossed this ferry numerous times to go on the other side of the river to pick crops. And there was some good peaches over there, and a lot of strawberries and beans. They picked the beans by hand at that time, so she spent her years picking these crops till she met me in about 1961. Marge was raised right where this big house is, right next to the railroad tracks. But that wasn't the house by any means she was raised in. She was raised in a very small house on this 15 acres of property. In somewhere right after 1970, they were working on the I-5 freeway, and they needed a bunch of dirt and gravel, so they had to dig some out of a borrow pit someplace. So they made these borrow pits, and the water level was quite high there, and they filled with water. So they took the dirt out in a way that they would make really good fishing access. So now there's some fish ponds there where you can go catch some fish sometime. Since Marge loves to go fishing, she was only regretting these ponds weren't here at the time she lived there. Otherwise, she could have just walked down along the railroad tracks and gone to these ponds and gone fishing, right very close to home. But they weren't even here at that time, so she didn't get to do that. We see the sign that the Game Commission has up here as we go in to the St. Louis ponds. There are many ponds here, so a lot of people can fish at the same time. They even introduced trout in here, which they put them in like late in the summer when the water cools down enough the trout will do good. And so a lot of people go there and fish for trout. But to tell you the truth, that's not the kind of area I'm used to fishing in. It's so crowded and so many people there, but yet a lot of them really love it, and they really catch some nice fish after they've stocked it. But unless you get there within about 3 days after they've stocked it, they've pretty well stopped biting. I guess they've caught the dumb ones out, and the smart ones aren't going to get caught. There are miles of shore access along these ponds. It's really quite a large complex here, and there's even paved trails leading you around some of these ponds. Others don't have it, but anyway, it's quite interesting, and there are signs up here telling you about the fishing, and they're written in 3 different signs. They all say this, only in 3 different languages. There's a map of the different ponds that you can fish in, and each pond is numbered, so you go to the pond that has the right number for you and fish. It's a very calm day today, and it's probably pretty pleasant fishing here since there aren't
This is
very many
pond number
people
3.
here today, and
Louis Ponds.
just sit there
St.
and
Louis
relax
Ponds
and
contain
fish.
54 acres of public fishing ponds developed for warm water fishing. The ponds were excavated in the early 1970s during Interstate 5 construction, when the highway department needed dirt and gravel for the roadbed. The usual shape of each pond was designed to maximize bank fishing access. The result is 7 miles of shoreline among 7 shallow ponds. All 7 ponds have warm water fish, including largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill, reindeer sunfish, channel catfish, and bullhead catfish. Trout are also stocked in ponds number 1 and 3 and 6 when water temperatures are cold enough in late winter and spring. There are several ways to fish these ponds. The 3 simplest techniques are described on the back of this kiosk. More experienced anglers can target large channel catfish and largemouth bass, which can be more challenging to catch.
Let's see what the
They're just telling how you can do it. People can figure that out themselves. Let's go.
no boats or camping allowed here. I think these are written in Russian and Spanish as well as English. The beavers have been working on these cottonwoods here, and they're girdling them and killing them. This is where Marge was raised. Her dad had 15 acres here and a little house over.
Right over there. That tree line was the side by the road.
Yeah. We're going into Gervais now, and Gervais is where Marge went to high school back in the 1950s.
Late 50s. I graduated in 61.
She graduated in 61.
And there's the Gervais Market.
Oh, there's the old Gervais Market.
And a whole string. And there's the post office right here to the right. And that used to be the cafeteria. Restaurant right there.
Oh, that was a restaurant?
Uh-huh.
Then is this the school?
And then down here, this used to be the high school, and now it's the grade school. Oh. Right here.
That's where you went to high school?
Yes, that used to be the high school. That's where I graduated from high school. And now it says Gervais Elementary on it. And then here's the Presbyterian Church. This is where I went to church.
Oh. That's where we went to see the preacher about doing our wedding. And he said we had to join the church and get to know him a little better and stuff, that he couldn't do it at that time. He says, you know, there can be a lot of hell in your home. Oh, here's the new high school?
Yeah, that's the new high school.
Oh.
Gervais High School. Right here. The middle school is right there. Here's the high school, right there.
Yeah.